I want you to hear me right now and hear me deep. Nobody cares. Let that sink in. Nobody is losing sleep over your dreams. Nobody is pacing the floor wondering if you're going to make it. Nobody is rearranging their life so you can succeed. And that's not a tragedy. That's your liberation. See, the day you stop expecting the world to give you a handout, the day you stop waiting for applause before you even start, is the day you become dangerous. Because now you're not living for approval. You're living for results. I've been where you are. You wake up and you've got fire in your chest, ideas in your head. You tell people your vision and they nod politely. Maybe they even say, "That's nice." And then they forget about it 5 minutes later. You want them to feel what you feel. You want them to believe like you believe. But here's the truth. They won't. Not until you show them something undeniable. And that's why you've got to work hard. Not when I feel like it hard. Not when the mood is right. Hard. I'm talking about the kind of hard work that has you up before the world wakes and still grinding after the lights go out. The kind of hard work where people start asking if you've disappeared. Because you have into your craft. And here's the part that stings. No one's going to hand you a trophy for doing it. No one's going to say, "Wow, I see you putting in those hours." They're too busy living their own life. But if you can embrace that reality, oh, my friend, you're going to own your life. Think about it. When you stop expecting someone else to carry you, you start building your own legs. When you stop looking for a shortcut, you start building a foundation no one can take from you. Let me tell you something. Pain is the down payment on success. Every sleepless night, every rejection, every time you have to swallow your pride and start again, that's your tuition fee. You are paying for the future you keep saying you want. The reason most people never get there is because they quit halfway. They tell themselves, nobody notices. Nobody cares. And they're right, but they miss the point. The fact that nobody cares means it's your responsibility. It means the ball is in your court. You think the world is going to open the door for you just because you knocked once. No, sometimes you've got to knock until your knuckles bleed. And when they still don't answer, you build your own door. I remember talking to a man who had been chasing his dream for years. He was tired, worn out. He said, "I just wish somebody would believe in me." I looked him in the eyes and told him that somebody has to be you. If you don't believe in you, nobody else can. It's not that people are heartless. It's that everyone's got their own mountain to climb. And that's okay. That's fair. So here's the mindset shift. Stop resenting the fact that nobody cares and start using it. Let it free you from needing to explain yourself to every critic. Let it push you to become so good they can't ignore you. You've got to focus on you, not the you that's been stuck in the same habits for the last 5 years, not the you that makes excuses. I'm talking about the future you, the one who is disciplined, consistent, unshakable. Do you know why most people can't focus on themselves? Because it's easier to focus on what everyone else is doing. It's easier to scroll, to compare, to criticize, than it is to look in the mirror and say, "I'm not giving my best right now." But champions own that truth. They say, "I'm not there yet, but I will be. And until I am, I will work, and I will work, and I will work." Listen, you are not in competition with the world. You are in competition with your potential. The only person you have to outrun is the version of you that didn't give their all yesterday. The road is long. You will be overlooked. You will be underestimated. You will be doubted. And you will still move forward because you understand something they don't. You're not doing this for their validation. You're doing this because you made yourself a promise. And when the day finally comes, when they see the success, the skill, the results, they'll say, "You're lucky." And you'll smile because they will never understand the nights you went without sleep, the times you worked in silence, the sacrifices no one applauded. And that's fine because you didn't do it for the credit. You did it because you refused to live a life where you could have, but didn't. Nobody cares. That's your freedom. Work hard. That's your weapon. Focus on you. That's your path. The world will tell you to slow down, be realistic, don't push too hard. But the world doesn't know your calling. They don't know the promise you've made to yourself. They don't know the hunger in your gut when you think about your dream. So let them talk. Let them sleep. Let them doubt while they do. You'll be building. You'll be growing. You'll be becoming. Because one day, the same people who didn't care will be the ones saying, "I always knew you'd make it." And you'll just smile because you know the truth. Nobody cares. Work hard. Focus on you and watch what happens when you refuse to quit. Nobody cares. Own your life. Say it with me. Nobody cares. That statement can hit hard because the truth is the world doesn't pause for your comfort or your excuses. Nobody is tracking your dreams on a scoreboard. Nobody is counting your late nights or early mornings. Nobody is making sacrifices for your goals. And at first, that reality can feel cruel, even unfair, because we're wired to want recognition and validation from others. We hope someone sees our struggle, applauds our effort, or tells us we're on the right path. But waiting for that external approval is the fastest way to stay stuck, to live a life dictated by other people's attention instead of your own purpose. The sooner you accept that nobody cares, the sooner you become truly free. When you realize that no one is coming to save you, you stop wasting energy on resentment or disappointment. You stop depending on encouragement from people who have their own lives to manage. You stop crafting your decisions around what others might think, and instead, you start crafting them around what you know is necessary for your growth. Owning your life is not about arrogance or isolation. It's about understanding that the responsibility for your success, your happiness, your future, your fulfillment rests squarely on your shoulders. It means accepting that if you want something badly enough, you have to chase it relentlessly without expecting anyone to hand it to you. Owning your life also means taking complete responsibility for the choices you make. You can't blame circumstances, luck, or other people for your situation. You have to examine where you are, identify what is holding you back, and take deliberate action to move forward. That requires courage because it's easier to point fingers than to face yourself in the mirror. But the people who accomplish extraordinary things are the ones who look squarely at their reality, acknowledge their mistakes, and say, "I control this. I'm in charge of my outcome." That mindset transforms setbacks from obstacles into lessons and failures from shame into fuel. The truth is, when you rely on others to care, you give away your power. You hand someone else the ability to dictate your confidence, your direction, and your commitment. But when you take full ownership, that power returns to you. You decide how hard you'll work, how disciplined you'll be, how persistent you'll remain when everything around you is falling apart. You decide which battles are worth fighting and which distractions are worth ignoring. You set the standards for yourself and you hold yourself accountable. That level of personal responsibility is rare because it's uncomfortable. It's much easier to complain, to justify, to hope someone notices. But comfort never built empires. Ownership always does. When you understand that nobody cares, you also gain clarity about where to invest your energy. You stop seeking validation in social media likes, compliments, or polite nods. You stop competing for attention in arenas that don't matter. Instead, you pour your time and effort into the things that actually shape your future. Learning, practicing, building, and refining. You develop a self-reliance that makes external approval unnecessary. You become unshakable because your sense of worth comes from progress, not applause. That independence is incredibly powerful because no obstacle, criticism, or rejection can derail a person who owns their life fully. Ultimately, embracing the truth that nobody cares is liberating. It frees you from the chains of expectation, from the paralysis of needing permission, from the endless cycle of seeking acknowledgement. It places the responsibility and the reward squarely where it belongs with you. Every decision, every action, every late night, every early morning, every tiny step forward belongs to you and you alone. The path isn't easy because nothing worthwhile ever is. But when you fully accept that you are in charge, you unlock a level of personal power and focus that is unmatched by anything the world can give. Discipline beats motivation every time. That is a statement that cuts straight to the heart of what separates those who achieve their dreams from those who talk about them endlessly. Motivation is fleeting. Motivation comes in bursts. It arrives with inspiration, with excitement, with a sudden rush of energy when something triggers you. But motivation is unpredictable. It is unreliable. You cannot count on it to show up every day, especially on the days when the work is hardest, when the grind is relentless, when your body and mind are screaming for rest. Relying solely on motivation is like building a house on sand. It looks good in the moment, but it won't hold when the storms of life come. Discipline, on the other hand, is the foundation. Discipline is what keeps you moving when motivation disappears. Discipline is the quiet force that forces action, even when you don't feel like it. And that is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. Discipline is a choice, and like all choices, it requires awareness and intention. It's easy to say, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll start next week. But discipline says, I will do it now. Regardless of how I feel, it doesn't negotiate with laziness. It doesn't wait for energy or desire. It acts consistently with precision and commitment. And it's in that consistency that greatness is forged. One day of discipline may seem insignificant, but when compounded over weeks, months, and years, the results are unstoppable. Small disciplined actions, repeated over time, build momentum that motivation alone could never create. The problem with motivation is that it tricks people into thinking they are ready. Motivation gives a high, a feeling of certainty, a surge of energy that convinces you that the next step will be easy. But life doesn't work that way. Success is not built on temporary feelings. It is built on daily habits, on showing up even when the excitement is gone, on doing the work no one else is willing to do. Discipline turns those moments of resistance into opportunity. It turns excuses into action. It turns fatigue into persistence. And that is why disciplined people always outpace the motivated ones. Discipline also creates freedom. It sounds counterintuitive, but the more disciplined you become, the more control you gain over your life. Discipline allows you to choose your actions instead of reacting to circumstances. It allows you to prioritize what matters most and avoid being swayed by every distraction that comes your way. When you are disciplined, you are not a victim of your environment. You are not at the mercy of fleeting emotions or external pressures. You dictate your schedule, your effort, and your results. You set the standards for yourself and meet them relentlessly. And that creates a sense of empowerment that motivation alone can never provide. Another powerful aspect of discipline is its ability to carry you through adversity. Motivation fades when obstacles appear, when rejection strikes, when progress seems slow or invisible. Motivation abandons you in the face of discomfort. Discipline persists. Discipline keeps you moving forward because it is built on principle rather than feeling. It is grounded in commitment, in a vision of your life that refuses to bend because of temporary challenges. Every setback becomes an opportunity to demonstrate discipline. Every challenge a chance to strengthen your resolve. That is how empires are built, not through bursts of inspiration, but through consistent, disciplined action over time. Discipline is also a reflection of character. It is not something that can be faked, bought, or borrowed. It is developed through repeated practice, through the choices you make day in and day out, especially when no one is watching. The person who disciplines themselves to rise early, to study, to train, to work tirelessly is shaping not just their future, but their identity. Discipline becomes a habit, and habits become the architecture of your life. Those who master it gain a sense of self, respect and confidence that motivation alone cannot provide, because they know they can rely on themselves regardless of circumstance. Ultimately, discipline is what turns potential into reality. Motivation is the spark, but discipline is the fire that burns steadily through the night, through storms, through exhaustion. Discipline beats motivation every time because motivation will fade, but discipline, once built, sustains you indefinitely. It ensures that you show up, that you put in the work, that you push past the obstacles, that you keep moving forward when the world would tell you to quit. Focus on your growth, not approval. This is a principle that can change everything about the way you approach your life, your work, and your ambitions. Too often, people get caught in the trap of seeking validation from others. We look for applause, recognition, compliments, and approval as if these external confirmations define our worth. We measure success by how others perceive us instead of how we are actually progressing. The truth is, approval is fleeting, unpredictable, and completely outside your control. If you tie your energy, your decisions, and your happiness to the opinions of others, you are surrendering your power to a force that will never reliably support you. Growth, on the other hand, is entirely within your control, and it compounds over time. Focusing on your growth means that every day you are asking yourself a single powerful question. How am I improving today? It's not about whether someone notices or whether someone compliments you. It's about the incremental steps you take to become better than you were yesterday. Growth is measurable in skills acquired, habits formed, obstacles overcome, and knowledge gained. It is tangible progress that no one can take away from you because it exists within your own mind, body, and spirit. When your attention shifts from approval to growth, you stop comparing yourself to others and start competing with the most important person, the person you were yesterday. The pursuit of approval is exhausting. When you live for the praise of others, you are constantly walking on eggshells, adjusting your behavior, your speech, and even your dreams to meet their expectations. You are vulnerable to disappointment when someone fails to recognize your effort. You are trapped in a cycle of performing rather than evolving. But growth is different. Growth is independent of external validation. Growth is about building resilience, discipline, knowledge, and strength that cannot be judged or diminished by anyone else. Focusing on your growth allows you to channel your energy toward what truly matters, the mastery of your own life. When you focus on your growth, setbacks are no longer failures. They are opportunities. Mistakes, rejections, and criticism become stepping stones rather than stopping points. You stop worrying about whether someone else approves of you and start asking, what can I learn from this? How can I become better? That mindset shifts your perspective entirely. Obstacles stop being discouragements and start being training grounds. Challenges stop being reasons to quit and start being evidence that growth is happening. The more you focus on developing yourself, the more resilient, adaptable, and confident you become. Focusing on growth also encourages long-term thinking. Approval often leads to short-term decisions because we want to impress, to be liked, to be recognized immediately. We chase attention and admiration rather than investing in the skills, habits, and experiences that produce sustainable success. Growth demands patience, persistence, and consistency. It requires the courage to work hard when no one is watching, to do the small, sometimes invisible tasks that compound over time. Those who focus on growth understand that success is a marathon, not a sprint, and that the most valuable progress often happens quietly, without fanfare. Another critical aspect of focusing on your growth is the freedom it provides. When you no longer live for approval, you are free to take risks, to innovate, and to pursue ideas that others might not understand or support. You no longer fear judgment or rejection because your worth is not tied to anyone else's opinion. You can experiment, fail, learn, and rise again without the burden of needing validation at every step. That freedom is empowering. It allows you to dedicate yourself fully to your purpose, to your passion, and to the vision you hold for your life. Finally, focusing on growth nurtures self-respect and confidence. When your actions are driven by improvement rather than external validation, you develop an unshakable sense of self-worth. You trust yourself, your decisions, and your capabilities. You understand that no amount of applause can replace the satisfaction of knowing you are becoming the best version of yourself. You become immune to the fluctuations of other people's opinions because your life is built on a foundation of personal development that cannot be shaken by praise or criticism. Pain and struggle are tuition for success. Every great achievement, every story of triumph, every individual who has reached a level of mastery or influence has paid the price of difficulty, hardship, and relentless effort. Life doesn't hand out rewards for comfort or convenience. It doesn't grant advancement for ease or luck alone. Every obstacle, every challenge, every setback is part of the curriculum. And if you are willing to learn from it, it becomes the tuition that educates you, shapes you, and prepares you for what lies ahead. The more you resist pain or avoid struggle, the longer it will take to grow, because true growth is forged in the furnace of adversity. Struggle is not punishment, it is preparation. When you face resistance, rejection, or failure, it is easy to see those experiences as signs to quit. But the people who succeed see struggle differently. They see it as an instructor, a guide that teaches lessons no textbook can. Pain is the wake-up call that exposes weaknesses, limitations, and areas that require improvement. It forces you to adapt, to learn, and to develop skills you would never acquire in the comfort zone. Every time you push through difficulty, you become stronger, more disciplined, more resilient. Every time you confront a challenge, instead of avoiding it, you are investing in your future capacity to achieve. Consider the physical world as a metaphor. A muscle only grows when it is stressed. When you lift heavy weights, when you push your body to its limits, it experiences strain, discomfort, even micro damage. But that pain is the signal that growth is happening. The muscle adapts, becoming stronger and more capable. Your mind and spirit work the same way. Each time you face a difficult situation, a setback, or a failure, your resilience is tested, your perseverance is challenged, and your ability to endure is strengthened. Pain is the universal language that teaches us to rise, to endure, and to improve. Struggle also teaches humility and patience. Nobody achieves greatness overnight. The journey is long, and it demands persistence in the face of repeated obstacles. When life challenges you, it is easy to become frustrated, angry, or disheartened. But those who embrace struggle understand that success is not instant gratification. It is the accumulation of small victories over time. Pain forces you to slow down, to pay attention to the lessons embedded in failure, and to cultivate patience and discipline. Without struggle, There is no depth, no character, no wisdom, only shallow accomplishments that are easily lost. Another critical aspect of pain and struggle is the perspective it builds. When you endure hardship, you develop empathy, understanding, and appreciation. You recognize the value of effort and perseverance. You learn to celebrate not only your victories, but also the journey that brought you there. Struggle shapes your mindset, transforming obstacles into opportunities, failures into lessons, and challenges into stepping stones. It equips you with the mental toughness required to face even greater trials in the future. Pain also separates the committed from the uncommitted. Many people quit when things get hard because they are unwilling to pay the price. They see struggle as a signal to stop, to find an easier path, or to settle for mediocrity. But those who embrace pain as tuition know that nothing of value comes without effort. They understand that discomfort is temporary, but the skills, wisdom, and character developed through struggle last a lifetime. Every challenge they overcome adds to a reservoir of confidence and capability that cannot be taken away. Finally, understanding struggle as tuition reframes the way you approach life. Instead of fearing failure, rejection, or difficulty, you learn to seek the lessons in them. Instead of avoiding pain, you accept it as a necessary step toward mastery and achievement. Every setback becomes a classroom, every failure a teacher, and every difficult moment an investment in your future success. Those who master this mindset develop an unshakable resolve, a relentless work ethic, and an inner strength that carries them through circumstances that would stop most people in their tracks. Consistency creates results, not shortcuts. In a world that glorifies instant gratification, flashy hacks, and overnight success stories, it's easy to believe that there is some secret shortcut to achieving your dreams. Social media, marketing, and even well-meaning advice often make it seem like success is sudden, effortless, and dramatic. But the reality is far different. Real achievement, the kind that lasts and transforms your life, is built on the quiet, steady, relentless force of consistency. It is the repeated actions, the daily discipline, the commitment to showing up, even when no one is watching, that compounds over time to produce extraordinary results. There are no shortcuts that can replace that process. Consistency is a test of character. Anyone can put in effort when they feel motivated, when the mood is right, when the world seems aligned with their goals. But the person who is consistent continues regardless of feelings, circumstances, or distractions. They show up on difficult days when fatigue is heavy, when doubt creeps in, and when failure seems imminent. Each action, no matter how small, is a brick laid in the foundation of their eventual success. Over time, those small actions accumulate into a body of work that is unstoppable, resilient, and undeniable. The power of consistency lies in its compounding effect. Just like money grows through compound interest, your effort multiplies over time when applied consistently. One day of work may seem insignificant. One extra hour of practice, one additional step toward your goal, one small improvement may feel invisible in the moment. But repeated daily, weekly, and monthly, these small steps create exponential growth. Skills improve, habits solidify, confidence strengthens, and results begin to appear almost inevitably. The key is not the scale of the effort in a single moment, but the persistence of effort over time. Consistency also builds trust with yourself and with others. When you commit to a path and maintain it, you develop reliability and integrity. You begin to trust that you can depend on yourself, that your word matters, and that your effort will yield results. That self-trust becomes a core part of your identity, fueling your confidence and your willingness to take on bigger challenges. At the same time, those around you begin to recognize your dedication and reliability, which opens doors, opportunities, and networks that shortcuts could never create. Consistency transforms discipline into habit. The most successful people are not necessarily the most talented, the most inspired, or the luckiest. They are the ones who establish routines and maintain them over time. Discipline becomes effortless when it is embedded in consistent behavior. When actions are repeated daily, they become automatic, freeing your mind to focus on refinement, innovation, and growth instead of constantly re-motivating yourself. This is why routines are the backbone of success. They create momentum that carries you forward even when motivation falters. Another critical element of consistency is resilience. Life is unpredictable and obstacles will always appear. Without consistency, a single setback can derail progress entirely. But when you are consistent, challenges become interruptions, not endings. You adjust, you adapt, and you continue moving forward. Each challenge met while maintaining consistency strengthens your resolve, proving that success is not a product of luck, timing, or temporary inspiration, but of steadfast dedication. Consistency also teaches patience and perspective. Immediate results are rare, and those who abandon their efforts for lack of instant gratification will never see the true power of persistence. By maintaining focus on daily effort, you develop an understanding that growth and achievement are long-term processes. You learn to appreciate the journey, the small wins, and the incremental improvements that compound into mastery. Ultimately, consistency separates dreamers from achievers. Shortcuts may provide temporary relief or momentary recognition, but they cannot replace the lasting impact of repeated, committed action. It is in showing up day after day, performing the work when no one else does, and continuing even when progress seems invisible that results are born.